mayoral candidates, obviously because Barbara Lee is the still the new mayor of Oakland. But you would be interested to know about what this particular Oakland mayoral candidate has done since the election was held and the outcome has been decided. Well, if you remember, this young lady, Elizabeth Swaney, was on my show. It reads right here. Elizabeth Swaney runs for mayor of Oakland, talks mayor of Oakland in an interview with Zinni Abraham. And if you also remember, Miss Swaney was at one point, that's right, she was an Olympian. Yeah. And I will show you what you will find if you just simply type in YouTube Elizabeth Swaney here. You've got 2018 Winter Olympics breaking down Elizabeth Swaney's ski route or whatever. This is on NBC Sports. And then we've got Olympics 2018 Hungary skier goes down half pipe. And then Elizabeth Swaney Olympic run with 0 tricks. And then how one woman scammed her way into the 2018 Olympics. Okay? The great Olympic scam. That's Elizabeth Swaney. All right? Then social media attacks Elizabeth Swaney after interesting Olympic debut. Okay? And so Elizabeth Swaney, then she performed stand-up comedy. That was 2 months ago at the Yoo-Hoo Speakeasy Weekend. This is 9 years ago, the Slip and Slide Air. And Hungary's Elizabeth Swaney is the biggest sport of the winter. All right. Now, all this begs a question because it wasn't talked about at all, this whole matter of the Olympic scam. But I'm wondering now if, in looking at this, perhaps Oaklanders were scammed. Work here. Let's just work with me here, because I'm going right now and I'm discovering this clear. In other words, as I make this vlog, I'm noting this find and I'm saying, hey, let's look at this, okay? So that's what I'm doing with you. And I'm typing right here, Elizabeth. Well, I don't want Elizabeth. I want Elizabeth Swaney. Okay. Right here. And Olympic skier, born 30th July 1984, Oakland, California. Country's Hungary. What should you declare Hungary? Huh. Right, that's weird, okay? And she was a coxswain for Cal. And she's bilingual, Spanish and English, and grew up in Rockridge. So what's the story? See, there's her, Elizabeth Swaney for Oakland Mayor Home, and then Stand Up Oakland. Stand up because she's a stand-up comedian, right? Then, but what's this about the scam? And this is what is written here. I just discovered this by CBS Sports. Meet Elizabeth Swaney, the American skier who scammed her way to the Olympics. Here's how a very average skier used her brains and determination to achieve an Olympic dream. And this is by Peter Blackburn, February 20th of 2018. And it reads, when you tune into the Olympics, you usually expect to catch a glimpse of some of the most elite athletes that the world has to offer, even if it's in some pretty bizarre sports that you didn't even know existed. Looking at you curling in biathlon. But if you tune into the qualifying portion of women's half-pipe skiing in Pyeongchang this week, you got an odd and confusing surprise while watching free skier Elizabeth Swaney. As she took her qualifying runs, it became clear that Swaney was zip codes away from an elite athlete. Her qualifying runs were so mind-numbingly average that it was almost captivating, as were the event announcers' attempts at taking her seriously. NBC Olympics writes, House free skier Elizabeth Swaney made it to the Winter Olympics with this very simple half pipe run, which I'm not going to play for copyright reasons. So the author writes, so you may be asking yourself, exactly how does a skier that average and that boring make it all the way to the Olympics? The answer is a bit complicated, but it involves a little dedication and a lot of circumvention. Swaney has been freestyle skiing for 5 years, and her goal was to make it to the Olympics, even if she had to snake her way in. The 33-year-old American isn't stupid. She has a graduate degree from Harvard, and so she worked out a scheme to make, and she worked out her scheme to make her Olympic dreams come true, at least for one day. Knowing that she would likely never have a chance at making the Winter Games while competing for a spot on the very competitive United States team, Swaney instead decided to ski for Venezuela, her mother's home country, before switching over to represent Hungary, where her grandparents were born in 2015. Skiing for Hungary gave Swaney a better chance at meeting the International Ski Federation's requirements and qualifying for Olympic participation. All she needed to do was show up at a bunch of international events and compete her very basic runs without crashing, as she would slowly score points and work her way up the rankings. The field is not that deep in the women's halfpipe, and she went to every World Cup where there were only 24, 25, or 28 women, said longtime FIS ski halfpipe and slope style judge Steele Spence via the Denver Post. She would compete in them constantly over the last couple years, and sometimes girls would crash, so she would not end up dead last. There are going to be changes to World Cup quotas and qualifying to be eligible for the Olympics. Those things are in the works, so technically you need to qualify up through the system, it reads here. Swaney kept her eye on the prize, and with some determination and a little bit of luck, it finally paid off. She qualified to compete at the Olympics. Here's more via NBC. This year, there were 24 quota spots available for the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in women's ski halfpipe, but those spots don't automatically go to the best 24 skiers in the world. The maximum number of skiers that each nation can send to the Olympics for women's halfpipe is 4.
Lenny, could I get a couple of beer aspirin?
So a country like the U.S., which had 6 skiers ranked inside the top 20 Olympics, could only send their top 4 skiers. Let me do this real quick, folks. Hold that thought right here, okay? Because I've got to take care of this request. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set this right here and balance it, okay? So I'll be right back. Okie dokie. All right, folks, I'm coming back. I had to take care of a quick errand, making sure aspirin gets to where get to my mom since I'm caregiving for her. All right. So anyway, here reads right here that this year there were 24 quota spots available for the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics and women's ski halfpipe, but those spots don't automatically go to the best 24 skiers in the world. The maximum number of skiers that each nation can send to the Olympics for women's halfpipe is 4. So a country like the U.S., which had 6 skiers ranked inside the top 20 of the Olympic qualification standings, can only send their top 4 skiers, even though they had more than 4 athletes who earned quota spots. So with countries like the U.S. having to forego their extra quota spots, some countries not using all their quota spots, and other athletes pulling out due to injury, the invite list made it all the way down to athlete number 34 in the rankings, Elizabeth Swaney of Hungary. That's crazy, folks. As you'd imagine, plenty of legitimate, i.e. talented, Olympic athletes, okay? Olympic athletes in South Korea are not exactly thrilled with Swaney making a mockery of the process and securing a, quote, competitive spot, the technicalities. Plenty of other skiers who just missed the cut and are forced to watch from home likely aren't amused either. But if you take an alternative perspective, Swaney's Olympic qualification can also be somewhat of an inspiration. She may not have the jaw-dropping athletic talent, but she had the brains and the determination to find a way to make it all the way to the Olympics. She strategized and she executed. Ultimately, she was able to achieve the real American or Hungarian dream, scamming the system to achieve your life goals while doing the absolute bare minimum to get there. Not all heroes wear medals. So it begs the question. Let's see if there's anything behind this. And there's not. There's no commentary or anything, just a bunch of ads and all that. Okay, fine. All right. So, you remember that I had seen a article or two. I saw an article or two, not seen. I saw an article or two that referred to some type of scam, but I didn't go down the rabbit hole because I simply looked at the fact that she was from Oakland and running for mayor, and she was a legitimate candidate like anyone else. You know, how else to look at it? So there's, I mean, the way you would scam your way into the mayor's race would be to make people believe you were somebody you were not. She is Elizabeth Swaney. She has parents in Oakland. She did grow up in Oakland. All right. She lived, you know, but here's where things do get a little interesting. All right. Did she engineer it to where she was able to use her parents' address and claim that she lived at that address? Now, I'm going to go out this an entirely other direction. I think that she was at her parents', or rather lived in Oakland, and prior to that, lived in Oakland also during the Olympics. So I believe she may have been in Oakland for some time. My point is that if you look at the basic definition of what it would mean to fake your way into an election, it would mean that she wasn't on anybody's official rolls because she didn't fill out the proper documents to be there and yet claimed to be a mayoral candidate. All right? Without even saying, hey, look, I want to be a write-in. And even then, she would have the right to declare herself a write-in candidate if indeed she was an Oakland resident. Now, if she wasn't an Oakland resident and used a fake address, that would qualify as a scam. Okay? That would qualify as a scam. I say this because I also noticed that during the campaign, Elizabeth held her fundraisers or events, they were in LA. She only had the one, I believe, before the election with also this party. Actually had two in Oakland. And so, but yeah, hey, there's nothing against a person having a fundraiser in LA to run for mayor. She would not be the first person to have done that at all. But it was quite clear to me that she came in, she was not well prepared, but she got better as the campaign went on. She began to attend forums. She began to raise her visibility, all right? But she didn't come anywhere near touching the top spot. And so now after the election, I happened to note this. Two things. First of all, I happened upon this Starbucks video, not by Starbucks, but by her, on her TikTok page, a new one. And it goes like this.
Hey everyone, I'm Elizabeth Swaney. I'm a Starbucks barista here in New York, and before that in California. And right here in New York's Chelsea neighborhood, the Starbucks Reserve Roastery is one of my favorite places because it showcases everything I love about coffee. Creativity, craft, and connection. So this place is like a coffee playground. 3 full floors roasting right here on site. Exclusive tastings, specialty drinks, and plenty of cozy corners to sit, sip, and stay a while. Basically, if you love coffee, it's like Disneyland, but with a lot more caffeine. One of my favorite pairings here is the iced ube coconut latte with a crispy hash brown egg coat. The latte is smooth, rich, and a little unexpected. Kind of like what I hope to bring as a global coffee creator. And the hash brown egg cup, flaky, delicious, and fueling both my caffeine and my protein, which comes in handy since I'm also a runner. Outside of Starbucks, I'm an Olympian, a stand-up comedian, and part of an amazing run community here in New York. And wherever I go, I love connecting with people, sharing stories, and building community. That's what coffee does too. It brings people together. I am so ready to share that passion globally, bringing new stories, new flavors, and new experiences to the Starbucks community all around the world. Starbucks Global Coffee Creator.
So basically, Elizabeth has become a Starbucks Global Coffee Creator in New York. Now, you would say, well, gee, Zenny, how do you know that she, was just there temporarily? Well, I received an invitation from her for this event, which unfortunately was postponed, Flirt Tank, a night of interactive dating and comedy, freestyle rap, and a magician. Sunday, August 10th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., St. Mark's Comedy Club, New York, New York. The registration was closed. It was postponed for reasons I'm not, clear about. It says presented by Liz Shows, hosted by Elizabeth Swaney, from the creators of Snark Tank, Money is Funny, the Tech Pitch Roast Comedy Show, featured in Forbes and the Washington Post, comes a wild new night of laughs and love. Join us for a mixer, stand-up comedy, and live dates between two brave singles at a time, guided by the audience with commentary by a panel of comedians and a matchmaker. Think The Bachelor meets Who's Line. Special for the show, freestyle comedy rap with Kosha Dillitz and magic with Tony Woodward. All right. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And so, but it's clear that Elizabeth is in New York. It's also clear she's not involved in politics anymore because she didn't say that she was politically active or interested in politics. But what an interesting person here who has taken this sort of interesting angle to life. You know, you can't say she was a fake Olympian because she was truly an Olympian. She gets the right to say that. You can't say she wasn't a real mayoral candidate for Oakland because she was. And she's also a very real Starbucks barista and a very real stand-up comedian. Not bad. Elizabeth, what's going on? Inquiring minds love to know. Come on the show. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark ZennyReport.com. Thanks.